selected few, that it applies to all of us. And thank you so much to our leadership for coming through to just enlighten us. I'm not going to do acknowledgements of who's important and who's important. Someone else is allocated that task. But mine is just to welcome you and ask you to all stand so that we can sing the national anthem. And I have to remind you that when you sing national anthem, we have people recording stuff. Please stay away from chewing gum. It looks very untidy on video. I just had to put it out there. I think that applaud is an applaud of people who are falling asleep, who are exhausted, who are saying, I don't know why I'm here. Can we have the kind of applaud where women in the world are exhausted? Thank you. And gentlemen, I would have expected you to be sharp late, so I can see women are sharp late. My goodness, times have changed. My name is Criselda Kananda for now, and please don't make anything out of that. It's going to be part of the dialogue. I am a program director this evening, and I was given a brief that we are here to open our hearts. It's a safe space. We're here to talk about women issues. Someone is recording this. The African National Congress has a mandate that whatever it is that we're crying out about, to capture that and ensure that they create a safe space for us. So we're talking, and I'm appealing to our keynote speaker, that when we address issues of gender, oftentimes we say women, and gender is not specific to he, to she only, right? And then oftentimes when we say gender issues, even look at this audience. Anyway, we did say women. Woman, right? So we're going to be talking about these issues, and I'm mentioning this so that you also acknowledge some of the challenges that are making it impossible for us to mainstream gender issues because of our male counterparts and things that you are aware of that you would like the African National Congress to assist with. Phambili ngamakhosikazi phambili. Amandla. Amandla. Awethu. Sound like him for sure. It's a very short program, and I think the latter part of the program is going to be us having a conversation. And you did indicate that your speech is like 5 pages, right? Not 20. No, I'm just joking. I got your 5 pages, not 20. Thank goodness. I'm going to call upon to help us just welcome everyone who's here and acknowledge some of the, I don't want to use the word important guests because you all are important, right? You took time out in traffic and you are here and we appreciate that. So I'm going to request that you come and acknowledge the very, very important. You get it, right? All right, so I'd like to call upon Umamnosi or Jobeka Makele.
Long live the African National Congress, long live.
Long live.
Long live the African National Congress, long live.
Long live.
Pata Ramaphosa, Pata. Pata ANC, Pata. Thank you and comrades, and thank you and my program director. Let me acknowledge the presence of the Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress, Comrade Jessie Duarte.
Amanda.
Let me acknowledge the member of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, Comrade Dr. Mafu. Let me also acknowledge the PEC member, Comrade Vuyo.
Amanda.
Let me acknowledge all the sectors that are here, but most importantly, we have our veterans in Bogoto Zetu. We have Mama Shahid Kachalia. You're welcome, Mama. Mrs. River Foreman from the Jewish community. Where are you sitting? Amanda. The Indian ladies, where are you? That's what I've been doing, that I must acknowledge as Indian ladies. Yes. Let me acknowledge all of us here. As the program director has alluded that we're all VIPs. We're all important tonight as women of South Africa. We came together here, we left everything because the African National Congress saw it very important that we should gather and celebrate the International Women's Day. My role tonight is rather a simple one, but yet a significant one, in ensuring that everyone feels welcome and at home. As I've been said, I'm Rosiko Jobeka Makete. I'm the member of the ANC Women's League National. I'm residing here in Gauteng. This evening is very significant in ensuring that women craft their own path and how will they unite and grow South Africa. It's the night that you should reflect where we come from, what we have achieved as women of this country and international women too. The themes of the perspectives of the African National Congress elections campaign is Grow South Africa. Central to the theme is how women can partake in the economy and grow South Africa, in the economy and grow South Africa, and how women can gain access to land, grow our food, grow the country, grow the economy and grow South Africa. Ladies, you're all welcome to this dialogue. We have all sectors here present. We have women from academic, business, creative industry, health, education, sporting, young women desk, parliamentarians, councillors. I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, let's loosen our seatbelts as we are going to engage tonight. Let us feel free, talk to us, talk to the ANC that is represented by the Deputy Secretary General, Comrade Jessie Duarte. You're all welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mamno Zipo. I also would like to add on that list, Mayor Irene Chan. I would also like to add on that list, I'm hoping Mutuzayenza Mashashi Samateki Miss Pagela, the legend in our Miss Pagamasis. And there's one more.
Bring us to life. Now she's scratching in her bag. I'm going to ask her to bring us to life. Amanda, it's a safe space, I'm told, so there are no holy anythings. My paper tonight is to tease you a little bit, because very often patting yourself on the back, and that's not really why we thought as the ANC we should have these conversations. we thought that we should bring to life the voices of the people. Bring it to life. Bring it to life because it's not all about winning an election. And I can assure you that we will win this election. I'm assuring you of that. We have no fear. And nor are we arrogant about that. It's because we know how to work on the ground with the people. And it is about the people. It's not about anything else. It's about the people. So I'd like to take you through a short journey. Just a short journey to remind us about where we come from. When the ANC took power in 1990, we were still under the yoke of Calvinism. I'm sure many of you remember what that felt like. A married woman was the child of her eldest son if the husband was no longer alive. The laws said so. You had to have permission from a man to open a banking account. In 1990, you couldn't open your own bond account in 1990. You couldn't do that. You couldn't even go to school and go to university without the signature of a parent. You had to have, still have to do that today, but if you're 18 today, you can certainly proudly as a woman walk into a university and be enrolled. You certainly weren't entitled to own the land that you worked and tilled and labored on in any area in the country, no matter how much you may have done on that piece of land. And maybe we still aren't there yet. We still also had the hangover, not only of Calvinism, but the true issue that makes women still today struggle, patriarchy. This notion that we live in a country where the man must be the breadwinner and a woman must be docile and follow whatever the footsteps the man says we must do. And there are many traditional leaders in our country who still believe in that norm. And we have to change that. I have to tell you that to my utter disappointment, I disappointed myself in Limpopo one day. I work with 5 men. I work with 5 very powerful men. We were all elected together. And we went to Limpopo to a particular traditional leader's house. And the men said, you know, the women have to kneel when you go into the king's place. And I said, I'm not doing that. And they said, if you don't do that, it will be considered an insult. And I still, I'm feminist, I don't do those things. But as I got into this house, all the women were on the floor, kneeling. And I went and sat next to all the kneeling women, and I kneeled. And I'm saying this to you because I think it must be understood that as advanced a feminist, and I am that, I am a radical feminist. I'm not a shy, flowery feminist either. Radical, I understand that you don't change things unless you use your voice. And when your voice doesn't work, you take to the streets. I believe in that absolutely. So I did this thing. And I came back and I said, comrades, are never ever going to get me to do that, ever. To the 5 very powerful men I work with. Unfortunately, the discussion wasn't very long. They agreed. They said, no, that was just not the right thing. We all have to move forward. We all have to move away from the trap of patriarchy. It's a trap. But it's also important to acknowledge that some good things have happened to us, you know. In 1990, when we went to the first conference of the ANC, we had to storm the stage to get an agreement on 30% inclusivity of women in decision-making structures of the ANC. But it wasn't as many people now when they speak about it as if it was just an easy thing to do. You put your hand up and 30%. It didn't come to us as women of the ANC. We had to storm the stage. You had Uncle Walter, Tata Madiba, Andrew Langeni, Kathrada. You know, you had those kinds of revolutionaries sitting up there. And they had difficulty with this thing of 30%, frankly. And we looked back, some of us, and some women were sitting down and not following us, the loud ones. Some women were sitting so that they don't get pointed out as troublemakers. And you see, unless you are prepared to make your voice heard, you don't achieve very much. 30% came. Fortunately, by 1997, we had pushed it up to parity, 50%, and we won that record. But in that same year, we won another important milestone, which we've now seemed to have forgotten somewhere along the line. We passed a resolution in that 1997 conference, which is very relevant today in our country. We passed a resolution against sexual harassment of all forms and all kinds. We did. That influenced the NAG-LAC Code of Conduct that even was supposed to go into trade unions and into the business sector. And it influenced, morally speaking, the thinking of people, but the implementation thereof is where the patriarchal trap is still very much alive. And I think that is something we must discuss tonight, so that when we leave here, we have a common perspective of where we go to. We also have in this country very good statistics. Our framework is excellent. Many of our sisters on the continent, when we meet them, are very happy with us, with the exception of the Rwandans, who have surpassed us by far in many ways. But our sisters are happy when we tell them that we have achieved quite a large number of women in the cabinet of South Africa. We have achieved a large number of women in positions of powerful cabinet positions, and we explain those, and they're very happy with us. And then when you look at the real statistics, and this is what I want to point out to you, the trap of patriarchy and what we must look for. So in our workforce, 44 in every 100 employed people in this country are women. Only 44 out of every 100 are women. So that means that in the economy, the poorest people in this country remain women who remain unemployed. Primarily young women, statistically. Then, of course, let me speak about the new thinking. When you reach the age of 15, they begin to say, this one, you have lost all your testosterone levels are higher than your estrogen levels, and they speak of you as you're almost a man, And so you must be retired now. You've lost it now. You must get out. Sexism. Men can go on until they're 92. Nobody complains that man is too old. But a woman is looked at from the way her body begins to reshape itself. And frankly speaking, I think it's wonderful that we metamorph in the way that we do. This is who we are. We are who we are. This is our shape, and we love what we are. We don't have to be, It's not that we must not acknowledge and accept beauty as well. Why not? Why not? But certainly, the patriarch looks at us and says, this one is finished. Let's go home to look after the grandchildren. Then you get into a fair perspective, and we need to think about that. Skilled posts available in our country shows statistically that 44%, only 44%, since the last time it was measured in September 2002, was 44%. It is still 44% stagnation. So what that says is the liberalization of us as women. We see a sister or a few sisters in positions of power, we say, Amandla, yes, we want that thing. And then we don't push for more. We're happy with what we get, and we ultimately liberalize the space. We're thankful that some have made it, and we say, we mustn't complain. They are there. We don't push ourselves to ask for more. We are 53% of the population of South Africa. We are between the ages in the main of 19 to 35, the majority of us women. We are also 56% of the voters' roll in South Africa. So when we all go to vote as women, we change the architecture of this country. But that's forgotten in a way. I'm being a bit provocative because I don't want us to have that kind of sugary conversation, where it's all about nice things. But we've also become accustomed to in the business sector, for instance. We see one woman leader in the bank and we say, oh, that's very good. And every time we talk about women in the banking sector, one face pops up. And it's been popping up for nearly 20 years. Nothing else is popping up there, nothing new. The banks are still white, male-dominated enclaves. And the reality is that in the space of the Supreme Court, for instance, by the way, in 1990, there wasn't a single woman who was a judge in this country. I mean, please, those could not have happened. Today, we have 32% women in the Supreme Court. We have 31% of women appeal judges, 30% who are ambassadors of the total number of ambassadors. We have 24% women who are heads of state-owned enterprises, but not the major ones. Not the big, major SOEs reserved for men. And we will say, the glass is half full, thank you very much. There is progress. But is this progress, or is this us accepting a liberal perspective that says it's good enough? And yet the ANC's perspective is a non-racial, non-sexist, united and democratic South Africa, which means that there should be no glass ceiling for any woman, anywhere, in any space. I'd also like to say to you, we are in the business sector. 20% of women occupy senior managerial positions. But you know what really is very instructive is that the Johannesburg Stock Exchange listed companies say about themselves that they are very proud to have a 4.7% of women as CEOs in their businesses. 4.7% of all the listed companies on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange have women as CEOs. And then chairpersons of those listed companies who are women, 6.9%. We're very happy with that. And female directors, 19% in the listed companies. The comparison with the SOEs is that there are 41% women as directors. So the road is long. Is the road long because we haven't quite understood how to deal with the power that we have? And that the power that we have was simply to be represented very well in Parliament, and then we were happy. And 39% of the mayors in the country are women. Is that good enough? We should say no. And have we become very accustomed to addressing our problems rather mutely. And when we address our problems loudly, we are then attacked. If we are in a relationship, we could even be thrown with acid in our faces. Attacks like that is simply the kind of reaction that women are getting on the ground. Secondly, the horrendous statistics on domestic violence. When in truth, if you harm another human body, it is a criminal act. But we don't treat it like a criminal act, we treat it like a negotiation. We must negotiate this thing, our families get involved, and there's counseling, and so on and so forth. And if the woman goes to the police, she's a traitor to the family and to the community. Whereas in fact, all she's doing is defending her right to defend her body, which is her space. Rape is a violent crime against women and men, by the way. We have to say to you that the statistics of men being raped is also on the incline. So when Sis Griselda says that the gender difficulties that we face in our country are not peculiar to one gender only, they're spreading across genders. So the normalization practice of accepting less when really you need to ask for more is contrary to the core values of the organization that I belong to, the ANC. We must ask for more. We must fight for more. We must never rest until we achieve that more. And yet, on the other hand, I go to communities in the rural areas and people will sit around and say, but there are many young men here who don't work. And you say, understand that, but equally there are more young women who are unemployed and equally educated. Why don't we simply talk about young unemployed people as a whole and find jobs, irrespective of the gender? Get into the workplace. Unfortunately, we've also accepted that we can be paid less than men as women. And it is a sad reality that I always remember the incident of Imperial Motors, who told a CA that she wasn't ready yet to be the CEO of Imperial Motors. And she went out to fight her case. And none of us stood with her. We kind of stood back because we wanted to wait and see how that would pan itself out before we kind of ventured forward and said, but this woman is fighting for the rights of all women. On what basis is it deemed that a man who may not even have a chartered accountant's degree is more qualified to be a CEO of a company than a woman who has not only the qualifications, but 20 years of experience on the job? And this is the conversation we are not having, because really structurally and legally we're doing very well. We have a government that is supremely friendly to the emancipation of women, but we have a society that is yet to fall in line with the extreme progressive nature that the government has. So I went into the government today and I said, let me go look what they've done. Have they done, what have they actually done? Not badly. On some of the issues that we constantly argue about, for instance, the Justice Department has opened up 11 courts that only deal with sexual harassment. 11 courts, but 11 courts for the entire country. It's a bit small. The police have 1,027 centers in police stations where rape victims can be treated with dignity. But that's not enough because it's not in every police station. That must be our demand. We also look at what has been done with the women's ministry. And I find it difficult when I hear opposition parties say this women's ministry has done nothing, and I think, wait a minute, what do you mean nothing? So how did we get to have legislation that protects the rights of women in the manner that it is now prescribed? It's because there was a Department of Women that looked at those needs and put it to Parliament, and it goes through. We're also quite good on looking at equality, but we look at it very technically and not from a gender perspective. Technically, if you've got 10 men and 7 women, you think it's okay, or you have a top 6 of the ANC with 5 men and 1 woman, we think it's okay. It's not okay, actually. But then Kosatu comes and they elect a woman as a president. Amanda, named in a very masculine space, a woman is elected as a president. Unashamedly, undeniably, a very strong woman as well. Not afraid. I must just say, my sisters and comrades, we can't say that there's nothing that has been done. I think the nothing part kind of betrays what has been done. But the thing that we must do now is move a little bit forward. So we've achieved parity in the ANC. Why isn't it national parity? And why are we not putting this as a constitutional obligation in our country? We're afraid to do so. It's not in the Constitution. It's simply the ruling party of the day that is insisting on parity. And the arguments from the right wing is that you can't impose this on people, as if the rights of 53% of your population are not as important as the rights of 47% of the other gender. It's a difficulty. It's a difficult argument, and it is time for us to move forward. Griselda says I can't speak for too long, but I also want to challenge religion. You see, 98.999% of our difficulties stem from biblical practices, Islamic practices, Judaism, Hindu practices, where women are not seen as very much equal to the men in those religions, even though when you read the Quran, it doesn't say so, but it has been captured by society in that particular norm, and we've accepted it because how can you go against the Quran? How can you argue against Moses, for goodness sake? How can you argue against the Torah that has all manner of things about women? How can we argue against the fact that most of the people who preach to us on a Friday, a Saturday, and a Sunday are men? How can we argue against those very powerful men? Because we, the women, wear our uniforms to that church, and we are respected in that church, and we fall in line. And so when we go to the mosque, we go to the separate side for women. And when we go and pray in the Hindu temple, it is also not so equal, I'm sure. And so on. And what that is that we're simply afraid to challenge the things that our religious beliefs won't allow us to challenge. And that doesn't mean that we are not good Christians, good Muslims, very good and perfect Jewish people, very good and perfect Hindu or Tamil people. But why are we not asking the right question? Where did this come from? Every power relationship we have, historically, comes from a particular origin and has been amplified for us, theoretically and practically, in a particular way, you know. So morality, therefore, is the guide by which women are tested. How moral are you? And your morality is about how you are perceived by by society. I say to the young women in this room, you know, we threw stones in the street. We did. Myself and Okawe in particular, she was a good stone thrower. And Kandi there, somewhere, I've seen some other people there. Malimu Kwena over there. You know, we did. We fought a very brutal apartheid regime, and we fought it without expecting anything in return except freedom. You have to fight in the same way for emancipation of women, without the apologetic perspective of, if I make too much noise, I am a troublemaker. But the point is that unless you're a troublemaker, change does not come without an interruption, and that is revolutionary. Revolutions are about interrupting the norm and interrupting the thing that you cannot change without interrupting it. That is what a revolution is about. It is even a revolution when you challenge the stoic stalwarts of your own struggles and say, you guys, you got the laws right for us. Thank you very much. It's implementation time. Madam, it's implementation time. Because we can go on theoretically rewriting the laws. We will continue as women to support men as presidents in South Africa, unless we are brave and unless we stand up and say, it's time to interrupt that thing and move a little bit to the left of the norm. I want to end off by saying finally, and I share this with you, we've undergone some difficult things in Lutulios. So what is our response been? We've decided to do what the ANC does best, is to gather everybody and talk about how do we solve this problem that we have here in our workspace of perceptions of sexual harassment or realities of sexual harassment or whatever, but there wouldn't be an outcry if there wasn't a problem. And there is an outcry, and therefore there is a problem. And that problem is about toxic masculinity that is growing in our society. We're not going to accuse anybody. We're simply going to correct behavior in terms of our renewal program. So we've had workshops starting to look at how we correct the understanding of some of the younger comrades about the rights and responsibilities they have towards themselves and towards each other. And I have to say, good things have come out of it and shocking things have come out of it. For instance, yesterday we had our session with male comrades. And it was a bit uncomfortable, you know, because the young men were saying, but comrades, you know what? You think the women are being sexually harassed. We get pictures on our cell phones and phone calls every day. And we also are being sexually harassed by women in return. And I'm raising this with you because you think it's a joke, but then I was shown the pictures. And I was equally saying, you. What is it that we're saying to ourselves? I want to say, another thing we need to do is to say to the beautiful young women in our country, your body is a temple. It belongs to you. You do not need your body to give you a job. You need your body. And when somebody expects that of you, your voice must be loud and uncompromising. When somebody bullies you into accepting almost a sexual advance, you can say no and you must say no. Relationships are private things, just like religion. You know, you don't force your relationships on the entire community that you work and live in. So the most undemocratic thing that we found was the tweet, the WhatsApps, and the Facebook. Undemocratic, co-sexual harassment on all sides. Everybody's doing it to everybody else. How do we stop it? How do we discourage it from everybody? But more importantly, there's nothing wrong with exposing those who are doing it. Be they male or be they a woman. We need to do this. Because we've got to walk forward out of this thing where a 10-year-old boy rapes a 10-year-old girl. Because in our norm now, it looks like that's the new normal. It's abnormal. It's actually abnormal. It is not right. And where does a 10-year-old boy know that he has the power to do that? Because he too has Facebook, Twitter, and WhatsApp, and many other things. But really, truthfully speaking, women activists, I don't know how many women activists there are in this room. I'm not making any assumptions. Nor am I making any assumptions that every woman or every man in this room is a feminist activist. I'm simply making the assumption that there needs to be activism that speaks very loudly. We've got the laws, thank you very much. It's implementation time, and our voices must be heard. And if the voice is not heard in a small way, then we must do what we know will make that voice heard in a big way. Take to the streets, unashamedly and unapologetically. Amanda.
Malibowe. Kamalama Sure. So now we start the conversation. Thank you very much, Mayor Jessie Duarte, for those insightful words of wisdom and reminding us of where we come from 1990 to where we are now. It's interesting that the demand was for 30% and look at us now. And I love what you said about feminism, and it reminded me of an expression that feminism is not a dirty word, by the way. All of us are required to just enable an environment where women thrive, and men sometimes. And also just taking a leaf from what you're doing in addressing sexual harassment within the organization. I think the biggest challenge for the African National Congress is communicating effectively what is being done. There's nothing as sad as when you know that you are affiliated, you are associated with the organization, that you have to be constantly on the defense mode. It would be great for South Africa to know that we acknowledge as the African National Congress that we have a problem, and this is what we're doing about it. Because that quiet diplomacy is not helping at all. Numbers won't lie. So some of the things, we need not bite our nose trying to spite our faces. And we need to call it what it is. A spade is not a dealing tool anymore when it comes to sexual harassment. So I am hoping that we do have that roving mic. There's 4 mics, and we are going to divide them into 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess. And with the 4 mics, we're simply requesting, I don't see notepads, so I'm hoping that that phone will be user-friendly. Because when we dialogue, sometimes we become so emotional that a train of thought gets lost in trying to express, and we end up telling stories. By the time you get to the story, your thought has been lost. So I'm going to humbly request that you, if you can, just write it down so that you can remind yourself what it is that you would like addressed. We did say that this is a very safe space, and you can speak it. And I'm going to demonstrate the speaking it by asking the obvious question. And I'm glad that we have Ipowoto with us, our leadership. And I would like to find out from our MPL that did you indeed reject Mama Winnie's name? And what informed that? So that when we go out, we know what to defend, we know what to say. because I'm starting with the elephant in the room, right? And that's how safe this space is. Having started like that, now the onus is on you to be as brutally honest, and you also are allowed to praise where praise is due, right? We're not here to only criticize. Sometimes when we take a mirror, because I see these dialogues as us taking a mirror and reflecting on who are we? What is it that we're doing? Where are we going wrong? And as we reflect, as we self-correct, that when we go out there, we go out thriving and shining because we know who we are. So, as we start now, my first question has already been asked, and I would like to see the 5 hands, please. You said 4, the ones who have the mics. They already have the mics. 4. There you go. And the ones who have the mics, and then we'll take another round. Please do indicate who your question is directed to. And I'm also accessible and available to answer questions so that you don't go around speculating. We are here as sisters. We are here to open our hearts, to open our souls, to connect, to collect, to build, right? As we build South Africa together, moving it forward. And just a reminder that we're doing this on the eve of International Women's Day. Some of these conversations are informing policies. They're shifting narratives. And you get to be part of that. I guess before we start the questions, just give yourself a round of applause. Then also just give yourself a hug. This person that you're hugging, just tell me I love you. I appreciate you, not the person next to you, yourself. Yourself. I love you, I appreciate you, you are worthy, you are important. One of the biggest challenges with us women, we're looking to other people to tell us these beautiful things. And when they don't, we have a low self-esteem. So when you tell yourself, you know what it feels like, you're able to tell other women. You can't give something you don't have. So we start. Raise the first mic. I'm looking towards my far right. When I'm not wearing my rings, it's always easy to check. I'm left-handed and I've always regarded it as my, so it's my far right, right? Please do tell us who you are, and if possible, you can indicate who your question or comment is directed to.
Oh, thank you. My name is Madam, and my question is not directed to anybody other than me on the TSG, but I think it's just a comment, not necessarily a question. I think it will be a comment and a question. First of all, let me appreciate this event, TSG. I think we should have more of it. I don't want to say it's long overdue, but I think that we should have more of this. And what really encourages me and makes me very happy is the fact that we have a lot of young women here. And these young women, when we talk to them and interact with them in future, I think they will learn from us and do away from what Jessie referred to as old women being treated with disdain, what I call ageism. Because I believe that old people like myself possess expertise, we've got experience that we can share with younger women. So I'm very excited that we have young women here. Most of that young people are moving away from the ANC to some organization that I really don't want to mention because I don't like it. But just what you have mentioned also about our laws. You mentioned the 30%, and I think that you omitted the fact that we are on 50% now. That even with this process, it's 50. Oh, she mentioned that this is the old age again. So we are on 50%, and we'd like to commend the ANC for that, because even in the employment arena, we talk about the employment equity. And when people are interviewed, we look at women with expertise, and those women are appointed because we'd like to have more women in senior positions, because I believe that we have a lot of educated women. Even the young women here are very educated. In terms of the law, how do we lobby? For instance, the judiciary. Because most of the time, the sentences meted out to men that have committed crimes against women, sometimes puzzle me. I ask myself a question: are we still colonized, by the judiciary? We know that the judiciary is very independent, but how do we ensure that women are given the necessary, treatment, or are taken seriously as far as especially domestic violence is concerned? You go to a police station and you are ridiculed by the panel beating you when you've been assaulted by your husband. Then they say it's panel beating. We heard that word when we were in detention. We don't expect our police officers to say that women have been panel beating, because I think that's a very derogatory way. So how do we really speak or lobby other people? From this conversation, we should talk about lobbying. How do we lobby perhaps the SAPS? How do we bring them on board to empathize with women? How do we lobby the judiciary, even though it is independent, so that women are not disadvantaged? The last point that I the very last one, is a point about the fact that Jessie mentioned the fact that women were not allowed to buy houses, were not allowed to buy cars. It's happening even now. If I want to buy a car and I ask my husband, who's estranged, to sign forms for me, he refuses. And I won't be able to buy a car. It's happening until now. How do we lobby legislation to change so that if I want to buy a car, I want to buy a house, I want to buy whatever, because I'm financially independent, I can do that. So those are the things that we must look at. And
Thank you.
The fact that we must have more of this internet confidence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One of the challenges as well is this business of having to change my surname to somebody else's surname. I'm just putting it out there.
I'm so deaf.
It's not on. The mic is not on. Please swap them around. 1, 2, exactly.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm dealing with an issue that is so important to me, and it's about me. I sit on the Council of Tshwane University of Technology, and the numbers do not lie, right? In the executive committee, we have males, one woman who is a director for HR, and one lady who is responsible for research. As somebody who's an activist feminist, member of the ANC, member of George Mokari branch, I took it upon me to say I'm going to challenge this. I challenged the chair of the university, who's the member of the ANC, who's the member of the PEC, to say that what's happening is not right. Let us prepare women, okay, to step on this road. I even propose that all acting positions be given to women, because there's this thing that, which is a big lie, that women are not ready, they are not women. Yet, there are so many capable women who spend their time gathering the trade and the skills. I said, let's give all acting positions to women. Outside the resolution of the council, they went and appointed me to act on those positions. I went back to the council, which has few women, and I raised this issue that it's wrong. The sad thing that even those women are members of the ANC and the members of the university. I was alone like a crazy woman.
But did you hear what the TSG said? Sometimes you take the road less traveled. Don't silence that voice.
I didn't silence the voice. I even wrote to the chair. I've got letters that I can make. I wrote to the chair, and I even wrote another letter. I even approached some of the leadership in the ANC, which is disappointing because we continue to protect those leaders that are out there to fail in way. This is simple ask. I'm not saying appoint a woman. I say let's give them an opportunity.
Sure. Thank you.
That's the first one. All right. And I can even share. It's so disappointing. And in that council meeting, the people that were supporting me, were the SRC. We all know that in our universities, who are the SRC? And it's so disappointing that we still continue to give them power. Yet the 8th of May is coming and we want people to vote for the very same organization. So think about it. All right. On the good side,
No, you mentioned good, so I'm silent.
I'm in the telecommunications space, you know, and the policies that have been implemented to support us, you know, to some extent are working. And we just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much. We're making progress.
Protocol observed. This is Nozipo Ngose from Sisterhood Foundation of my creatives. I'm the president and my young and much advanced women. I think kufanele ukuthi ngidayimete khona ngizokhala ngizwakale ngazi ukuthi uma uyangizwa. The creative side, musicians, dancers and actors. I'm starting from abantwana besuka from their rural areas beza urban. Beza emasontweni bathi bafuna ukuzosonda. They end up being abused. Mawufika esontweni uze uyichoir. Ujoin the choir because you don't get jobs to keep yourself busy, ending up sleep with the pastors as a creative. The so-called pastors from outside, I'm not talking about Indoya Nekaya. Mom Jessie. Mom Jessie. Our young women, they abuse themselves. They allow people who badlale ngabo. They don't seek help. Babefuna iBrazilian engaka. Bazivulela amathanga. Angithi siyahlela. Bazozivulela amathanga. I'm 47 years old. Fought for this country from 1986. Torren Sarafina, other people, Abalabayangas, Yema. I fought for this country. But I'm staying in a shack, in a room without a ventilator. I've been knocking doors asking for help. Not me as an individual, for the foundation that I'm working for. Women that I'm with, they're jobless. That's why they ended up sleeping with anyone for food, for houses, for jobs. You know, Mama, the day that we met with the creative sample, I said we want to meet with you to discuss issues. I'm happy we've got this platform today. It's so painful to see people abadala nami, mina ngaphandle. What about others? I'm homeless as we speak. I fought singing Freedom is Coming to Tomorrow from 1986 until 1994, but I'm homeless. Begging singers I worked with then, they're still homeless. You go and ask for a recorder. If you want to record, they'll tell you, do this first so that I can record you. What you call that? You are abusing yourself. So if I say no to my body, I'd rather starve. This thing and this bonayo about babes, beshaya abo mambenja or mambenja eshaya babes. There's a foundation. Manje you don't know what is happening. The girl can get frustrated, or some way. I want to pay revenge, mambenja my own. Also pose is stiff. Or a double shot or a triple Lanzaza, I don't drink. If Muktola is standing social and not she's young. The minute I'm a recorder, my charter as a romantic girlfriend, it didn't start there. She came azothi ngifuna umsebenzi.
Singakhohlwa ke speech.
Okay. Yebo sisukhathi. I'm saying it's in the card. I'm saying thina kwi-creatives sicela ukulalelwa mama. We need houses. We need houses nathi sikhathele ukuhlala kuma-shacks anukayo. We voted, we fought for this country. We need the attention from our mother. Ukuthi ayosikhulumela nabanye abanabo kwi-top seat. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, when you talk about creatives, as I acknowledge the next hand, as a freelance journalist or freelance presenter on SAFM, on SABC, every year when it's end of March, you don't know whether you're coming or you're not. How do you then apply for housing? And if they decide that you no longer need your services, you're out. We had to beg money to bury Eddie Zondi, one who served so many of you. Many of you were born out of Eddie Zondi's service. Some of your babies were born out of his service, but we had to beg for money to bury him. And there are so many examples that I can mention. Creatives is struggling. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Moderator, igama lami Alexa Nomdidi. I'm grateful to have this opportunity. Uma Duarte has touched a very sensitive issues about the patriarchy. One, before we even come to solutions, I wonder what is the cause. You have also touched some of the causes of this patriarchy and all these challenges that we have. We need to know what are the causes of all this mess that is happening in South Africa, and then we can come up with solutions. And the second point, in fact, I would like to say it could be understanding our human rights as women. Maybe there's a lack of understanding our human rights. That is why women are abused, women are processed into positions, and then they are elected by other women but to serve men. You spoke about religious practices. Perhaps the environment that abafazi live in, even they end up, not understanding who they are and searching for the savior, perhaps indoor. So we need to look at global religious practices. What are we doing? Maybe kufanele ukuthi emasondweni, ezikolweni, abantwana bethu besebancane from e-creche, umzekelo, bafundiswe ukuba what are their rights, and even building the confidence. I think one of the things that we're missing as a country is building the confidence in these young people who are going to be our leaders in the future. So, last point.
Promise last point, right?
It is just it is. You spoke, spoke about our bodies. We shouldn't use them as our temples. You cannot say a woman on the left-hand side mustn't use the body. I'm not justifying that women should use their bodies. But women are poor. Women have no jobs. If you are saying don't use your body for a job or whatever, or to climb the ladder, then provide the solution. Provide the solution in which because they have children, they are husbands or fathers of their children, they have died or whatever, and then we are stuck with these children, they need to feed them. Hence you will see prostitution and so on. So I stand for those women, like about prostitute and all of them. So as women, these are the things that we need to look at. And we must expect our leaders to bring up solutions. We should do something about it.
Thank you. And by the way, they take offense when you say sex work, when you say prostitution, but it's sex work. It's work, because there's no emotion involved, it's work. That's it. Yes, it's coming there. Obama has had her hand. One Kachala has had her hand. She hold it for you.
Good evening, comrades. I'd just like to mention that it was in 1948. Molly Kacharia was my father, and Molly means a priest. And in 1948 was when my mother went to prison because my father had launched the passive resistance campaign for the second time. And the reason she went to prison was that people, if you were black or if you were Indian or Kannada, could not cross into any border of the Transvaal to the Cape or from the Transvaal to the Tel, you needed a permit. And at that time already my father said that women will be included in our struggle. And then my mother went to prison when he mentioned that. And when he launched the campaign, my mother went to prison. She and many other women crossed the border into Natal and that they were arrested.
Thank you.
And also, after that, my father decided with Nelson Mandela, when he, after the launch of the passive resistance, he went to meet Nelson Mandela, who had just opened his office not far from my father's business, and said to him that we will work together. And he launched the Defiance Camp. We work together, the fight against freedom.
Can I promise you something? I need this. This is very important. We call it Mkhabo. Can you and I have a one-on-one that I interview you and we play this conversation on radio?
Yes.
Can we do that?
Very short story finish. It's very short. After he launched the Defiance Campaign with Nelson Mandela, he wrote the campaign, but he felt always when he started the struggle, the country belongs to the Africans, so they will lead. So Nelson Mandela was the chief in command, my father was his deputy. That is when he decided that 20,000 women will march to the Union buildings. And each woman, they were shilling and they collected 1 million shillings. And that was very good work.
For 1986, women came together, 20,000 of them, with babies on their backs, black and white babies, some breastfed under the trees, and look at them now. Nothing happened to them. Can we come this side and then we come back here, please? Because we've neglected this group. I'm not sure how much time we have for this session. I was told that it's going to be 15 minutes, but judging by these heads, I got to see. Send an hour, right? Yeah, we're here to talk, boss. Singalibali, please, no stories. So we take it to this side and then we come back. Okay, I've been given 15 minutes more. Let's maximize it, please. So when your friend has a mic, please give them your question as well. Sila, and then you come back here. We'll come back. And what's that? You've got the mic.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I actually wasn't expecting to come here, but this conversation has triggered a lot of, I think, a lot of issues that I need to get off my chest. The first one.
When you say a lot, how many? I'm just checking.
No, two.
Oh, thank you.
Just two, and I'll be brief. So the first one, which has already been addressed. Oh, sorry, I'm Naledi.
Hello, Naledi.
So the first, I hear a lot of people talking about feminism versus, patriarchy. There's a notion that exists, a silent notion that I feel needs to be addressed, where it's woman versus woman, especially in the workplace. And I'm speaking I'll speak from both sides. My mom spoke earlier on, and if I look at what's happening within the ANC, you have a lot of women that are stalwarts, that are veterans, that have fought for the freedom of this country, that have a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. I mean, and I'm using a lot as, you know.
Because it is a lot.
No, it is. And what I see is you have young people, and sorry if I have to sound dismissive, but they come from nowhere, insulting older women because they are old. They have this, they seem to draw a parallel between age and competency that I don't understand. You see it on social media as well. This old minister is back in her position. So that is a concern for me because I have seen where the inverse is happening in corporate, where you have a person who has so much experience, they looked up to. They are legends, they are gems within the corporate industry because you as a young person can run to that person at any time and get advice on your career, how to build your career, and so on. So I think this is a topic that should be thrown out there. We should start talking about it because, like I said, it's an issue that bothers me.
Gotcha.
Number two,
How?
I said two. Number two is, again, almost inverse of what happens where you have in corporate, so I'm moving away from what happens within the party. In corporate where you
Can
have...
you not speak, please, and have double meetings? I asked very nicely. Thank you.
Where you have the women that have climbed up the corporate ladder, that are climbing without lifting, but also climbing while stifling younger people. It happens. I've been a victim of it. My colleagues have been a victim of it. So I think that's another topic that also should be thrown out there.
Sure.
It's an age thing. You have older women as well trying to stifle younger women. And if you look at it, it's a mutually beneficial relationship. It works in the perfect scenario. Because if you considered an old minister, you can benefit from young people's ideas on how to drive solutions in society. And you as a young person can be mentored throughout your career to even be better than the person who's the incumbent.
Thank you very much. Ageism is a problem. Already they face the Mokusaka out. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Jessie Duarte.
The mic is tired. I think,
Thank you.
the same move up here.
My name is Jessie Duarte. I'm a member of South African Women in Construction. Firstly, I'd like to express the gratitude that we did get work from government as women in construction. But the project specifically was the 1956 in honor of what Ma'am Kashali has just explained to us. We have a serious challenge. To be short, I would like to recommend that when government issue out this project, it's important to also have a monitoring
System.
evaluation and monitoring system in place. Because as we speak, we are having a serious challenge where we have our leadership telling us that it is their project. And this project is actually, it exists in all the provinces. Now you ask yourself, did they also lobby for Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and so on and so forth? So the long short is that, please, can those issues be addressed? Because we are grateful as members that we did get work. And these are the issues that we must also share to say government did give us work. But if it benefits a few people, it's a serious problem. Because if you are to ask anyone about government giving women jobs, most of women in South, they will tell you, we're not happy with the government. But ask that know from the beginning how Minister Sisulu brought the project to women, and it only benefited a few people. It's very sad. So those systems are very crucial.
And I'm sure that you're going to put your money where your mouth is, and you're going to lift everybody as you rise. I did say to this side and then to this side, but that one is going to burst anytime soon. Can you give her a chance, please? Yeah. Go ahead. Before Vamo. Swap the mics, please.
I'm also not working.
Mike, please help us out. Santella, please.
Thank you. My name is Palo from the government's desk. I want to speak a bit about representation and how we understand it to be important so that certain people can speak up for certain constituencies, right? It's not only important for that, but it's also important so that young people can dream, right? So if I see Mom Jessie as a colored woman and I come from a colored community, I can sort of dream bigger because she's standing before me. If I see Mama Flower there, she's any member of parliament, and I'm a black from a certain background, I can also look up to her. So representation allows you to dream, right? And if we understand that principle, we agree on that principle, then we should agree that queer women in this country don't have dreams in the same way, right? Because we don't have role models, we don't have people who've made it in high, we don't have queer parliamentarians, we don't have queer, I mean there was Lynn Brown at some point, that was cool, but I'm saying in terms of just speaking out and sort of just activating sort of the queer agenda, we don't have that, right? So patriarchy at one point used to tell us that women can't be at the table, right? At some point they accepted the 50%, but then they also told us which type of woman must be part of that 50%. And that woman doesn't look like a queer woman, right? And yeah, so it's when we speak about patriarchy, right? Privilege is so comfortable, right? And I think sometimes straight women, they sit in that privilege because they sort of palatable from men, right? So men prefer a straight woman, they prefer a feminine woman who she goes to church and she has kids and that family. But the rest of us who don't look like that, we're not the preferred woman, and we don't have those ideals of the family and the nuclear family, and therefore we're left out of this sort of conversation. Nothing is said about us. Let's have a conversation about that as well. Thank you.
Speak. And now we come into the middle, but I had said to this side and then the middle center. Yes, 15 minutes is not going to work. My name is, because that one is looking me with the eyes that says, ooh. But we did have a system, guys. So we need to move this side. Everybody's inspired. Round 2 of this. Right?
Thank you. My name is Lusanda Mafuna. I just want to express gratitude. Firstly, that Umamani, when is here, she used to be an RC member of the ANC in Joburg region, and we have learned a lot from her. And just to touch on what she's still an RC member. Oh, sorry. You know why I thought she wasn't? Because comrades.
I get to your point.
Ladies, the issue here for us is that as women, we are the only ones that have to sacrifice ourselves as soon as we become of age. Men are never too old to be anything. And I think firstly, that's what we need to do. We need to unite around that and realize that we have something to learn from each other age-wise. The second thing is that the issue why, well, one of the issues why certain issues aren't able to be implemented correctly, especially in government, is that when we get this power, so I become a minister, I don't change the conditions it takes to get that power. I'm just happy that I obtained this power and I want to keep it as is. For example, if we look at the ladies that are, or the women that are MECs or ministers, and we look at their political advisors, none of them are women. Because we don't even trust our own thinking. We think just because I'm there in this position of power, I therefore need a man to balance me out so that my thinking is valid. So if you want to engender all your programs, you need to make sure that you include women in your circles. When you get these positions, you need to change the conditions for us so that we don't have to go through the issues that you went through when you got these positions. Lastly, I want us to also think about this oppression that is called marriage. It's so tough. It's so tough. Because it's not, you may love your husband and you may love your bank. But the other issue is that, the other issue that nobody tells you about just before you get into this issue is that you marry the whole clan. And you can be the most influential or the most feminist person in your life. But when you get there, you are literally nothing. So even us, when we become mothers-in-law or sister-in-law or whatever-in-law, we must make sure that we change conditions for the people that come into our family. So that people understand that we are all important and
So we now move to the middle, please, Nyantela, and then we have to. Yes.
This road is not an opportunity. Yes, please, I have just things to read. My name is Jessie Duarte.
I am the program director, and you have to can you speak because, and then please, it's you, and then the sentence are going to Mike, please don't was put. Guys, come on. Can you please be on the floor so that you can help with the mics? Thank you. Just motion the floor, Mike.
Mine is right.
Guys, get the other communities. You are a Teta Police.
Yes, I just want to raise three things. The issue, I just want to
Can you be quiet?
I think it's around the role of media and how media portrays women. There's still a source narrative. And the fact that when women receive negative coverage, women never stand in social solidarity with each other. And I do think that it's something that we need to reflect. I know a lot of public narratives that people would say women are their worst enemies. I don't want to use that because in fact, social construction actually prepares women to be their worst enemies and compete against each other. For us, this with nothing. And I think Jessie makes the point that we need to start implementing. And the core is we need to have a collective agenda. Because if we don't have a collective agenda, then we start competing with each other. The second issue I want to raise is around issues of access to land. I think women need to have a very strong voice around access to land and live with economic opportunities. We know the issues around feminization of poverty and the fact that women carry the burden of poverty, the household level. But fundamentally, because land is a factor of production, when women have access to land, they can use that as a collateral and be able to raise capital. So part of what the ANC is committed to is to release state land. And the demand we must put on the table is that women must prioritize land. And that will be the exciting. I think the last issue is, allow me the last issue. Just, we need to, I agree, support the view that we need to have monitoring and evaluation around economic opportunities for women so that we can see the benefit and the change that we're making on the ground.
And please don't sell those tenders to men because you're defeating the purpose, please.
On that point, good evening everybody. My name is Rotan Mulao. I am a professional construction project manager, so I'm a professional in male-dominated industry.
Please, can we come back?
And I stand on broad shoulders. A lot has happened since 1919 before in order for us to be standing where we are. My issue is on financial emancipation. When men was talking about we need to bring it to the street. Our street is different. In corporate, our street is about financial exclusion. When we bring issues of transformation, we are shunned. People run away. Transformation is a dirty word. So I am taking you on the challenge to say we must ask for more. If we say we want to ask for more in the GSEs or to have people in leadership, we need to ask government to also walk the talk, to say, what are we doing for women? What is being ring-fenced financially, specifically for women? Not just BEE having 30% and 51% black ownership or black women ownership, but to say per project, especially in the construction industry, it's a big industry and property sector, to say we are ring-fencing at least 31% of that for women. Thank you.
Civil, right? Very important. Women are going to have economic emancipation in this lifetime. Can you please?
Okay. Amanda! Wathinta bafasi. Wathinta bafasi. Thank you, Ma'am Jessie. Thank you everyone for this great program.
I agree with you, Ma'am Jessie. Progress has been made, but there's still a lot that needs to be made when it comes to transformation on women empowerment. And for us as the ANC, the governing party, for us to be taken seriously by corporates, we need to start at home. There is no transformation. Even if you look at the top 6, it's only you, Ma'am Jessie. And you've been a deputy secretary for how many years now? And it was said that we need to be free. We are protected in this room. So you were in the same camp, Ega NDZ. So why was it so difficult to say, at least to comrade Ace Magabe who deputy, who comrade to Jessie, Abe Nobana? Sibona serious ngale transformation esifunayo as abafazi. If that is not happening, I think as women we need to come up with an agenda to say we are not standing for any position if it's a deputy position. Be it the deputy chairperson, deputy secretary, a woman is not standing for that position. From branch level until national, we are not standing for those positions. Another point, Ma'am Jessie, my national leaders, provincial leaders, everyone. I am tired of attending these sessions. Dialogue. I am tired of walking to national buildings. We walk. Now I want implementation. I want, Ma'am Jessie, let's implement programs as is our future, the life of women. Those who are in business, let them be empowered. Those who are in professionals, let them be empowered. Because who's a good deployer who comrade Bandan, Kula position? Deployment, who comrade Akasena savings. So we need to empower those comrades so that even if the deployment ends, they are able to apply their service. It does not need to go get back door. And we need programs, Ma'am Jessie. More programs that will focus on the psychology of women. Because obviously, in the abuse, it's no longer about security, financial security. Because women who are empowered, that earns a lot of money, they are still subjected to abuse. So we need more programs that will take the psychology of women, talk about self-love, self-respect, all of those things. Thank you.
And you know who's your volunteer, right? When we talk about that program, just 2 things. And guys, but 15 minutes, I'm telling you 15 minutes, I'm telling you 50. And I've got a note here. This note says, please inform everyone that immediately after this, we're socializing outside. There's drinks, there's snacks, and there's Jessica back here.
My name, hello, Sanbalan. My name is Nofia Kado. I work for the Department of Image. I don't see women in that space. So my challenge to you is that knock at that door. Secondly, I'm very community driven. She said, I hope, I'm very community driven. I was in Alexander raising funds to build parks and planets. Abantwana in Alexander, 12-year-olds, are sleeping with dogs. They have sex with dogs. I need us to go to Alexander and find solutions for those kids. 12-year-old. 12-year-old kids.
And when it is order, powers vested in me takes back the mic and we respond. This is Yapa. I
am saying 12-year-olds in Alexander, in Australia, they make love to dogs. So I need us to go and find solutions for those in Alex. I have started, I am raising funds to build a park in Alex and a library.
That's the amount of confused. Because this lady has been standing like forever, and in pressure and I stage, which we have to close. And justified, because we have booked a venue until a specific time. But at 8 p.m., I took it to 8:15, Zaya 8:30, Sisazoenza a vote of thanks, then closing, like I'm confused. But speak, please. And the rest of the mics, can they be closed now, please, unfortunately? What I suggest we do, the Mutually House kindly assist us, communications people, provide us with an email address where we can send more of our concerns, comments that will be linked to this particular dialogue. Can we agree on that? Thank you.
Good evening to all. My name is Lundi Sokulu, and I am a creative practitioner. Last year, we were at the Tuli House, and we were trying to revive the cultural piece. I'm not sure whether you still remember that. And as creative, we thought it was a great idea, because we have pertinent issues that are actually really, really going to make the creative industry non-existent anymore. Then in November, we were actually promised that we're going to have creative sector creative ambitions, and 6 months down the line, that has not happened. The problem we're sitting with is that right now we've got a copyright and performance amendment bill that is sitting in Parliament as we speak. And if that is going to be passed on the 27th of March, we can kiss the creative industry goodbye. What has happened is Google has actually lobbied and possibly has paid some of the people to actually make sure that the bill is passed. What the bill says is that there's going to be fair use, meaning that the person can use your work as much as they want to without you being paid. And they can take it to 5 years, 10 years, and there are no litigations to be able to fight that. So 25 years. So you actually can produce work and don't earn, and somebody that is allowed by the government to use your work without you being paid. So what does that do to the creative industry?
Thank you, and they give money to the golden and beautiful. So it's a done there, right?
No, I'm the last
No, we seriously have to close, guys. I empathize, I sympathize. Unfortunately, I've been instructed by leadership to close if I involved. So the university said that they need to be women professionals, but they are not funding PhDs for females. Please end that on your response.
Malibongwe. I'm just going to respond to 3 things, and then the rest I'm leaving it for Jessie to respond. You've heard my name is Notari Mafu. I am the member of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress. And the reason why I'm standing up is that I'm also a member of Parliament. And I am the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Human Rights. Now, one question that has been asked by most people a comment, which talks to the issue of the homelessness or the sheds in the creatives. And so I thought it's important, because also what has actually come out clearly here is the need to have sectoral engagements, so that there's time for people to engage on the issues that pertain to them. Now, Lutuli, we then would want to ask you to help us organize a creatives, particularly women, allow me in particular to come and then engage with the creatives on the issue that has been raised by us. I thought it's important. The second part I want to respond to is linking on SAWIC, the 1956 project. I agree, that's a project that we had agreed that, because what we had identified was the fact that women were not getting the space
in the construction industry. And we then launched that project. And I agree with you that it is not getting the traction that it is supposed to be getting on women. And right now, Eastern Cape has asked us to come and dialogue with them on that issue. Mpumalanga has asked us to come and dialogue with them on that issue. So I'm saying it is not only Gauteng problem when it comes to 1956 project. It looks like it is becoming a national problem around South African women in construction. And therefore, we have agreed that because Parliament is closing on the 20th, we will be on the ground and we will be engaging with yourselves on these issues to be able to understand why this project is not implemented the way we had agreed that it must be implemented. The last one, which is the elephant in the room. Griselda asked a simple a question in the beginning and said, why was the ANC not supporting Mama yesterday? On the motion that was raised by the EFF on the renaming of the Cape Town International Airport. Now, I think let me put this into perspective. One, ANC-led government put together a council on geographic names. And anything that has got to do with naming, whether you are naming a town, a street, an airport, it goes to that council. Now, already, Mama Winnie's name is sitting with the council, and actually, it is sitting at the top. Wow. There are other names there. There is Mama Sisulu and there's others. But what EFF was doing, it was trying to use Mama's Winnie's name to campaign. And we couldn't therefore be getting into a trap of actually assisting EFF to campaign on Mama Winnie. So what we did is to actually amend the motion. We did not reject it. We amended the motion by saying we support the fact that the Council on Geographic Names must continue with the work, because as Parliament, we cannot create structures and then usurp their powers and decide now that Parliament is naming when there's a council that is naming. Because then what is the use of having that council? Therefore, the reason why out there in the public, it looked like we are not supporting. It was not because we are not supporting, but the organizations and structures that we have put in place as the ANC government. We cannot, when we see opportunity, we get carried away and get scared and support opportunity. That's what we do.
Now that's the kind of ANC that I'm affiliated with, not the kind of headlines that we've seen. So we needed to clear that. I would like to now call upon Jessie to help us conclude, and she promised that it's going to be 5 seconds responding to many of your queries. But I have to mention as well that for the creatives, there is a dialogue that is planned for the 20th of March. And there'll be so there are planned sectoral engagements, and you shall be notified. Don't tell people that you're not going to pay them. Anyway. And there's an engagement with Black professionals on issues affecting preferential procurement, where people already know who's going to get the tender. Amendment bill, and Swan is a perfect example. Amendment bill, and there'll also be public consultations on the bill on this particular issue. And we invite women to be part of this conversation, please. And ANC will communicate where and when and how.
Jessie Duarte!
I mean, 5 seconds is like finishing.
Let me just punch you
What I'd
now.
like to do is just to touch on the most important things that have been raised amongst us. And I think this has been, I love being a woman because we speak in the way we feel. And there's nothing wrong with feeling and speaking how we feel, actually. It's a good thing. Otherwise we're a bit boring. And we're not boring. We're alive, we're well, and we are going to change the agenda from talk to implementation. That is really what I feel has come out of this session tonight. Yes, we've talked a lot. We understand the problem. Understanding the problem is 2% of the issue. Fixing it and implementing good programs to move forward is the other 98%. And that's really the challenge we must take with both hands. I also want to say that that bill is not going through Parliament. Parliament closes on the 20th of March. So there's no bill that's going through there at the moment because there hasn't been sufficient consultation. That's the reality. Thank you. Let me also say that, you must not misunderstand, sisters. I would not ever insult a working woman. I'm going to put it to you like that. Because I come from a community where I understand what poverty does. Right? I wasn't born in a rich family. There's no trust fund waiting around the corner for me anyway. All my children. I've inherited nothing. Okay? Like many of us in this room. But what I am advocating for is that you do not have to use your body in a workplace to please anybody. And really, I am saying to all of us in this room, it is up to us to fix that thing now, to make sure that no young woman is vulnerable in the workspace. No young man must be vulnerable in the workspace. Our children deserve dignity and respect. And we must insist on that, really. And I must say, Griselda says, why don't we publish what we're doing in tutorials? We might do that, but it's a healthy thing that we're doing. It's healthy because things are being pushed out, It's healthy. Let me come to this question of ownership of the tender by our leaders, as my sister says. That thing is absolutely incorrect. When you have worked hard to win the tender, that tender belongs to the company that you work with and who you are employing in that company. No leader can come and claim a piece of a tender. And this thing of corruption, we've all been given labels. But I would like to say here to you tonight, I still need to find a minister, a DG, a DP, anybody who can claim that I went to them to say, can I have a backhand? Because it goes against the grain. It is wrong, and those who are doing it are not helping the ANC. And those leaders who are doing it are wrong to do. Let's agree on that. Tenders that have a name before the tender is announced. For that reason, we all firmly support the idea that it must be more open. Let it be known who's applied for the tenders publicly. Let it be known from the date that the tender is announced to the date that the tender is provided. Secondly, let me say what I do know. Women who apply for tenders may be very competent, but they don't get the tender. And that issue is a problem we must face, all of us in this room, together with people who are in industries. And I think we must go for the system that you've proposed. Let's ask for a quota initially and push until more women get work that is valuable work so that they can employ other women and other people, creating jobs. Let this not be the same people getting the same tenders, the same friends over and over, getting the same things. But also, let's spread a little bit out. But let me put another challenge which you haven't raised. You know, I don't know how long it will be possible for the government to be the only provider of jobs in South Africa. I don't know that we can continue along this trajectory, because it is bound to move towards a failure point. The government is the biggest employer, is the biggest one creating work on the ground, and where is the private sector? My challenge is to those of you who are in the private sector, your voices are not strong enough, so therefore we must join with you to raise that voice to a crescendo. You know, as the lady says, I get pushed up and I don't take anybody with me. In fact, I slide on the glass ceiling and I look down through the glass ceiling to those who are still waiting to come up, and actually, perhaps even in that way, suppress people. What I hope we can never do, and we must not do, it is correct for the ANC to encourage more young people to be in ministerial positions. Nothing wrong with that. I want to say that to you because it's important that we service the constituency that is the majority constituency out there. And it is also true that we have, most of the people in our country are young, and they want to see young people standing here where I'm standing. Let me also say up front to my sister there, I'm ready to retire, really, frankly speaking. You know, it's been a long time, but it's time to give that baton to younger women. I'm determined to do that. And there are young women in this room that I can tell you are the future national leaders. They have personally my support, Nokawe Mafe, as well as other comrades. It's time and support. Yeah. It's time to push forward, push them forward, make it happen. Let me also just raise the other matter that you have raised. You said the person from Tshwane University, Scotland. You can't be the only fighter there, and the SRC by the EFF is the one supporting it. And it is sad. And the ANC PEC member is the very one who is not hearing you. No. So what we've agreed with Comrade Nokawe, we're taking this matter between the two of us. We will find the PEC member. We will have a conversation. We will understand why the voice of a young, promising person was not heard. And you know what is our experience going way back to the Wits University attack on Professor William Makgobo? That a black professor was not good enough to be the Vice Chancellor of Wits University. We're now in the phase where a black woman is not good enough to lead at the top of universities. Same distinction, same thing. We must fight against it as we fought against Belinda Bozzoli and the others when they treated William Makgobo with disrespect. We must fight the same battle with you. I also wanted to say that what we want to do with these dialogues is, as I said, this is not a space where we come to be in comfort positions. We have to disturb the norm. We have to be disruptors of the norm in order for our revolution to go forward very vociferously. And you know what? The conservatives in our country don't like the word revolution. You know, radical economic transformation. Oh my goodness, what is that? And yet the reality is we can change nothing unless we change the structure of the economy in this country. And that means that the majority of the people who are black must own the means of production. It doesn't mean you're taking away from those who own it now. It means that we have to develop and expand our economy in such a way that we own the economy and they may own some of it too and support that ownership. And honestly speaking, and I'm going to be very open now. There's Musi Mamani saying about Wara Wara, BEE and so forth and so on. He works and operates in a system that cannot accept black economic empowerment because it is opposite to what his party's principles are. Our principles are clear. We must empower black people. We are not going to apologize for it. We are not going to ask anybody to apologize on our behalf for it. It is here to stay. We have to radically transform this economy. I also want to agree that we have a new struggle, and that struggle is to recognize that there is no two-faced gender any longer. We're multifaceted. And therefore, if people of other genders are being oppressed, that is an oppression of all of us, because we're a human rights culture organization. And therefore, the rights of everybody must stand firm, as we've said, in our constitution of the ANC, which influence the constitution of this country. Let's not pretend that we didn't influence a great deal of things. We did. But it is also time to implement the good policies that we have on people. So the next batch of ministers are going to find it quite tough, because your voice, our voices are going to demand implementation. Hard, tangible, can we see it implementation everywhere, every day. Everywhere, every day. Stop tinkering with the system and implement the policies. That's where we need to go. That is renewal. So I want to end there. I have a message here which I, yes, acknowledge, and I accept and will call the person with this little message about this appointment. But let me just feel very proud on your behalf. Many young people here tonight. Please don't disappear into the woodwork behind the Twitter accounts, behind the faceless Facebook accounts, behind the innocuous WhatsApp accounts. We actually need you much more on the ground, physically facing our people with your energy. Because where you are stuck now is exactly where patriarchy wants you. Who owns Twitter, WhatsApp, and Facebook? Ask yourself that question. And why are you being channeled so carefully as young people into one limited space of social media, so that you are no longer revolutionaries on the ground? Move yourself out of that space of narrowness, 48 characters, and become voices of the future on the ground. Amandla.
I'm going to call upon to take 25 seconds to just tell us about more activities that are going to happen and the significance of being an active citizen. She should know best and bloodstream as revolutionaries. Let's give a round of applause.
Amanda, are you going? It was a Monday night at 23:05 that a call came in from Soweto, from Mama Nini, who said to me this morning, as I look at him, I don't see that there is life in him. Mama Nini, I asked, she says to me, I got into my car, I discovered his Land Rover that I paid for monthly, the first deduction out of my parcel government account, and I drove. Broke the speed limit at 200 kilometers an hour. I arrived in Soweto to find a body of my cousin laying bloodless on the soil of Soweto. Crony was only 23 years old, 28. I have raised
Shoni's youngest sister since his mother died at the age of 9. What are you doing in your community to make it better? It is not black tax, it is simply As Shoni lay there, I thought about what I was going to say to Banisi when I returned home at 4 o'clock in the morning to let her go. And I'm like, many a South African have died in this country, and their blood soaked the soil of this country. Because guys, God, African National Congress says what are we going to do with what we have and what we have been part of and created? We can no longer point fingers for our children dying. Or it was another mother's child who stabbed Tony to death. She stood behind the gate after pushing him out and locking the gate and saying, I'm a villager, he must not die in my yard. She then wiped the blood of my cousin so that her son could not be implicated. What are you doing in your community? The community was out in numbers by the time I arrived. The car I drove was of no significance for their body life. A woman lying protecting her son behind her gate. What are you doing in your community? I'm talking about the reality of today. Talking about the reality of Monday. We will leave money to rest. Come tomorrow. As I landed from the flight from Cape Town, I thank God for having let me just fly away just for 2 days. For our children perish because we do not treat. Yet as women, we are the majority. This young man had just come out from 5 years in prison. What are you doing in your community? You talk about economic empowerment of women. Jessie Duarte, the TSG of the African National Congress, stands before you dressed in a dress made by a woman, for a woman. What are you doing? Tell us what you are doing. Ask us not what needs to be done or what can be done, but let's find the solution for the problem. We know too well. We live the problem of gender-based violence, of the discrimination of the LGBTQIA+ sector. Who are not represented. You call and you talk about children who die at the age of 12 who are raped. What are you doing? Now, Omasulu, against all odds, I don't let them go into exile, for going into prison. Let me die if I have to, but I will not set out on my country, my people, or my movement. Why are you setting out on today? Guys, state power is in our hands. We let it go on the 8th of May. We let it go on the 8th of May. I cannot guarantee you that we will not be the Western Cape as the entire country. Yeah, it is in your hands to grow this economy. It is not words, but what you do when you get out of here. Mabetunana, akinamanzwi, ekaliprati, ekalifanele se, fatile mutun. Within you to know that we stand and live in a country that is blood drenched with the blood of many souls unknown who fought our freedom and democracy for us together as we do today. Where Masisulu Mangweni Madikizela Mandela were imprisoned and also pregnant as she was, not imprisoned. Yeah. Question is not what is the ANC doing? We are the ANC. What are you doing?
And I know say Amanda. Please
So I say what I have to say. Can you just rise and just take a moment of silence for all those that have passed on through gender violence, through social discrimination. Just take a moment. Thank you very much. I thought it's important, as I'm asked to do a vote of thanks, to actually appreciate this moment. When I left Cape Town in this afternoon around 3, I said it's important to hear what women are saying, because a lot of time we don't give this opportunity to them, and we don't listen to what we are saying. And it's important also to remember that by its nature, patriarchy is divisive. Yes. It's a very divisive thing. And as you sit here and talk about your needs, just remember, we are dealing and we have to empower each other to actually defeat patriarchy, and it is work in progress. And I just wanted to share a story, Jessie, that in KZN on the 14th, which is next week, there's a case going to court. It's a ward councillor who has been have a case opened against her. It's a woman by the Ingata Freedom Party, simply because the ward committee in her ward is all women. So IFP doesn't take kindly to the fact that ward committee there in that small municipality called Bosanzana, Zuma municipality in Eriguala district, they don't take kindly to that ward committee is all women, so they open the case. I'm relating the story because I want you to appreciate the fact that there's a pushback in South Africa on gender equality. There's a serious pushback, and if we do not appreciate that and understand that all of us, we have to be gender activists, and all of us, we have to understand that it is not only the African National Congress that has to deal with the issue of gender equality. When the ANC is for 50-50, and you all know by now that the ANC is doing the best it can, but remember, ANC itself is part of this society. So the pushback will even happen within the African National Congress. Remember that. So activists and members of the ANC must always be woke, as we put it, to understand that when you deal with gender equality, even the most advanced revolutionaries, men, do not necessarily transcribe to this. You have to understand. And therefore, that is why it is not by mistake that even when the ANC as an organization is believing in this 50-50, other parties will not necessarily subscribe to it. And that is why it is important that when we deal with issue of gender equality, it becomes non-partisan. It is not an ANC issue. It is a women's issue. Women's issues are human rights issues. All of us need to understand that. And therefore, as we are pushing for these engagements, remember we should open them up at some point and even engage those that don't necessarily belong to the African National Congress, because we need to transform the society. We need to do that. And therefore, we want to appreciate the cry that we have said that we don't talk to you enough. ANC is listening, and we will make sure that this will happen more often. As I've already said, we will try, because what then happens is that DSG is going to be sent all over the country. I'm deployed in KZN most of the time, but there must be time in the program, SIPO, of the African National Congress of Engagements to make sure that the issue of gender equality is mainstreamed within the African National Congress. So with those words, and I want to appreciate that you've been here, the fact that you have been, because that means it's something, there's something within you that says you are not doing enough, ANC. And because you are saying, ANC, you are not doing enough, that also says out there, we will have these challenges. We will have these social ills, because remember, if women cannot be united, if women cannot speak in one voice, if women cannot go out there and defend the African National Congress, which is the leader of the pack right now on gender issues, you are going to have a challenge on the 8th of May if somebody else then becomes the government, because we are the ones that are leading on this debate. You have no choice, therefore. You are going to go out, you are going to tell your family, you are going to tell your parents, there's no other party. Because of your rights and because you need to make sure that ANC stays on course, we all go out and vote African National Congress.
I get tried and tested. There's nothing more to say. You value when you're God. And I think it's befitting that right now you give yourselves a round of applause. This was robust, it was insightful, it was intense, and it was hearty. Because we got to the heart of the matter. And we have our leaders, we've given them marching orders. And just to quickly mention to you that there's going to be more of this kind of conversations. Every week, the ANC will be meeting at various sectors. On the 9th of March, there will be a conversation with the ANC president and in Centurion. And on the 14th of March, conversation with the president in Johannesburg, and the venue will be mentioned on the ANC's website. On the 2nd of April, I'm just mentioning the dates for your note, there's going to be acknowledgement and an event honoring Mamoini Mandela at Cornwall, and on the 22nd of March, it will be a health dialogue at Joburg City Hall. And with all that, by the powers vested in me as your program director, if I offended you in any way or form, I humbly apologize. I was not here to offend people. I was here to simply drive the process in the how-train speed. We tried, we had a couple of wills coming out, and right now, these powers that are vested in me are saying outside, ons gaan eet, ons gaan roes. Ons gaan eet, ons gaan roes, ons gaan chilla, ons gaan network. Some of our leaders will still be there, so please do ask your questions and interact with them. It's called a networking session. So I would like for Dikeledi Mathamu to stand, please. Dikeledi Mathamu is a finalist for Mrs. South Africa 2019. So, Dikeledi Mathamu. This woman, the business of supporting one another, starts today. So in SMS 35959. Is that simple? 35959, and mention her name and surname, Dikeledi Mathamu, so that she brings that honor to the ANC Women's League. Right? Congratulations, Sissy, good luck. We will be voting. So, okay, Wamanda. Great. Let's go and have fun. Thank you very much.